Thank you, Krzysztof. We're sharing the beautiful name as well. I do click here, and by the way, Fundacja Państwo, we did sign it and been among one of the very first signatories. And yes, this is me. This is the Państwo Foundation. I will tell a bit more about me because it's very important when it comes to the presentation I wanted to show, or the topic of the presentation actually. I'm a lawyer dealing with the freedom of information for many years, but more as a grassroots level, in terms that I was helping the people in municipalities, like, you know, layman citizens, to get the information on what is the situation about the healthcare, about the environment, all the issues that were really attached to their life. And I do believe what we're talking now, like very progressive things, technology, open source, open data, is only the evolution of the freedom of information, the right that exists within our hearts, because this is the part of the human rights issues, and this is this comes out from the dignity of every human being. And this is only the quote from 1947. This is the resolution of United Nations, 46, sorry, that shows very well why the freedom of information is important. So this is like the freedom of information is actually serves to protect other rights. So where I have medical problems, I can have information on the public health care, on the QSTA, like whether I have to pay an extra money, etc. When I want to send my kid to the school, I can know whether it's a good school or not, like how many kids are in the school, etc., etc. So this is not a very new concept in the terms, because we all know, or the most of us know, that the first legal regulation was introduced in Sweden in 1766, but we all know, and I'm sure we all know, that there's the very famous Latin phrase called ignorantia juris nocet, which means that not knowing the law is going to hurt you. So you have to know the law, and to know the law, you have to have an access to the information. So even the ancient Romans thought that this is an important topic for the human beings, and we are going, like in many years, through very traditional means of getting the information. So it's like reading. So we got tons of documents. We were really happy, like getting them, and I'm still very much happy when I can get the interesting document, even though it's scanned. It's not in the machine-readable format. I cannot search through that. But our appetite grows. So reading is not enough, and especially is not enough to get the citizens to be included. For example, if you have the problems with the site, you cannot read the document which is scanned. The watching thing is really great. There is a freedom of the media, which is also very much connected with the freedom of information and the freedom of expression, because yet again, all international human rights documents connect these two laws, the freedom of information, or these two freedoms and rights, the freedom of information and the freedom of expression, because how can I express myself about what the government is doing if I don't have the information what the government is doing? So again, it's very much connected, but still watching, you like to watch politicians, like it's a show. I mean, it's not, I don't have the feeling, it's like a credible knowledge of the government activities. Then it's the right to express, which is a great tool. I love to be part of different demonstrations, and I'm doing it for years. And this is a kind of a feeling that I can express my opinions about governments or other citizens on any other issues. But still, with this expression, watching and reading, we have like a data that doesn't meet with each other. I got frustrated because I'm shouting, but the government doesn't hear me. The government may be frustrated because delivering me the data, but doesn't have the feedback. So what I really like the most, and this is not necessarily the legal issue, is reusing the information, because that's the point I do believe we are able to meet with each other. There is like a whole legal framework of reusing, especially in EU member states, but this whole concept was actually built before the legal framework. Of course, we were reusing a lot of different data, but the possibility of freely reusing the information which comes with technology is this moment that actually we as citizens, as coders, are not at all like that, but I do believe it's important to code. We can create and deliver those services that governments is failing. And this is the greatest potential of the reuse when we are talking about governmental data, and these are the data that I'm dealing with, is that we are using the data coming from the government, and we're thinking we can do much better. And actually, sometimes I do feel we do much better. This is the one of only example what the foundation FoI is doing. These are the data from the business registry, and which is generally accessible in Poland, but you can to get access to every record. You have to put CAPTCHA, and you cannot search through names, for example. So we did create a tool, and this is actually the example of the new modern, the Modern Poland Foundation. So you can see the links and connections between other NGOs and people. And this is a great tool for journalists. They can use it. They won't use the CAPTCHA thing or go to the library of the business registry. They're gonna use that. By the way, this is also the very interesting phenomenon of the new phenomenon in the terms that we are talking about privatization of governments, in the terms that the third parties are performing public tasks very often, but also we are governmentalizing, if one can say so, privacy, because these are the names of the private people, although active in the public field. So the whole thing is that we are thinking about access to the data, reusing the data in a very broad sense. So we thought, why not to think about the code, program code, as also an information, a public information, as document, as the recording from the Assembly of the Parliament, and we ask for the source code of the document management system that was built in Poland from public money and to deliver public tasks. We had several reasons for doing that. One of the reasons was, of course, that we thought it's public money, so it should be given to the public. There are a lot of private documents that are processed through this software. So as you were showing during the film, we want to check whether they really control what's going on with the privacy issues. But to be modest a bit, we thought we will just do that better. And we can deliver the program for software, not only for the government and with the feedback, hey guys, you can do something with that and it will be more fruitful for citizens, but also maybe for the NGO sector, right? So why we have to buy a commercial platform to help with manage our documents, we can use something that the government already paid for. But as you can not be surprised after seeing this photo, it wasn't so easy. And actually, it still is not. We were quite motivated also by one of the ruling of the French Administrative Tribunal that in 2016 said that the basing, and this is also one important thing, that we are in the European Union, we're talking about the same reuse of public sector information directive. So more or less, and in this particular case, it's more, we're dealing with the same legal environment and the legal framework. The French Administrative Tribunal, when it it was the case about the access to the code of one of the fiscal software used by the Ministry of Finance, said that since the communication is not excluded by any exceptions implemented by the law, and you can see these are the same exceptions that apply to the freedom of information, basically, so it's not about like technology and new stuff, said, yes, there are no obstacles to that, there are no legal restrictions, so the applicant can access. What the voivodeship, so the regional administrative court in Poland said in our case when we wanted to approach it, because of course, I mean, it's expecting that we are in the court, the government said before, no, you can't get the source code for that. The administrative court said that since the source code is only a technical component, it's not a content, it's not like something, it's not a data really, so we not really treat it as the public sector information. Basically, oh, by the way, this is funny because this is also kind of interesting point when we're talking about reusing the data and using the crowdsourced knowledge. They took and it's officially in the justification in the ruling. They took the definition of the source code from Wikipedia, and it's like you can say you can read it in the like on the court website. So so this is a good example, but like the bad thing is that we haven't got it. We still believe that this is the way that we can have an access to that. We signed a complaint, a cassation to the Supreme Court, and we're waiting for the results. We also asked the court to ask the European Court of Justice to say whether this way of thinking is in accordance with the PSI directive. And like, as a lawyer, I do understand some like discussion about it, but as a citizen and the person who is like in a favor of the progressive democracy, which includes everyone and it's free for everyone, I don't get it at all. And for the end, I think for the end, yes. And this is like my personal kind of reuse commitment. I'm doing this very first time, and a lot of people were doing it for years, so it's not the first time, of course, but I'm reusing the concept of using the cats in the presentation. And the quotation from Furlis, basically, that the struggle continues, and we're gonna go to the court. I hope we're gonna get to the European Court of Justice if necessary. But again, we believe that the struggle to get the information is very much important, as it was important 100 years ago. Just the content is a bit different. Thank you very much and keep fingers crossed.